Hello again, everyone. The clock seems hungrier than usual. This is an ill omen. Maybe a bird story will suffice. It all began this morning. I woke up at about 8 a.m. to the sound of chirping birds, like most other mornings. I got out of bed and went downstairs to make some breakfast. I hadn't gone to the grocery store in a while, so I ended up just having some Pop-Tarts. After that, I got on my computer to pass time before I started work, which I'm currently still doing from home. I scrolled through Reddit for a while, then I realized something odd. The birds were still chirping, but even more seemed to have joined. I don't know how it took me so long to notice. I usually find the sound of birds chirping absolutely obnoxious, but for some reason or another I was oblivious to the continuous chirping until that moment. I looked out from the window to see that there was an incredible amount of birds flying overhead. There had to have been at least 100 of them, and there was a vast variation of colors and species of things. About a half hour had passed and the birds had not ceased. As a matter of fact, the chirping only became more frequent. Quite suddenly, my room darkened. At first I thought a cloud must have come in and covered the sun. I remembered that when I looked out just a half hour before, the sky was completely cloudless, so I looked out the window once again. A wave of all sorts of hues danced across the sky. The birds had formed a massive flock that was nearly blocking the sun. Amazed, I left my house, and it seemed many of my neighbors were leaving their homes as well. Everyone had the exact same baffled look on their face. None of us had seen anything like this before. We all stood there in a collective stupor for about 15 minutes, almost as if we were hypnotized. The flock continued to grow in size, and the chirping, my God, the chirping was unbearable. The flying devils began to cry even louder and with higher pitch, enough to drive anyone insane. The pitch got higher and higher as I saw my neighbors squeezing their heads in a futile effort to block out the sound. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't doing the same. Things got more insane when one child's ears began to bleed. He was only the first, of course. Screams of pain were definitely there, but were almost mute compared to the torment of the godforsaken birds. People were pounding their heads with their fists, gripping their heads tighter while crying. I even saw one of my neighbors huddle on the ground rocking back and forth. I ran inside and turned on my stereo as loud as it could possibly go in an attempt to drown out the non-stop tweeting. That didn't work, so I buried my head in a pillow and threw all my blankets over me. I spent hours and hours trying to drown them out, until I had finally had enough. I snapped. I ran over to my safe, entered the code, and opened it. Inside was what I hoped would be my savior. I grabbed the pistol, loaded it up, and ran outside. By this time the sky was completely blotted out, and the only light source we had to work with was the streetlights. Thankfully that was all I needed. I aimed my pistol at the sky and rapidly pulled the trigger again and again until a clicking sound notified me to reload. With each bird I shot, it seemed the spot filled right back up again. This avian cloud had become a hydra that was driving me and all of my neighbors to the brink of sanity. Even though my efforts proved futile, I didn't care. I just wanted this to stop. I would do anything to make this stop. Then the revelation came to me. The revelation that made me decide to write this down in the first place. As I ejected the magazine from my pistol, I noticed that the birds were all flying in the same direction. This led to two possibilities, and I'm not sure which one terrifies me more. The birds were either flying towards something, or even worse, away from something. The hands groaned as the clock started back up again this time, but it seems we're safe for now. Rest well, everyone.